What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Columbus Wired post-game recap. I'm Andy Evans, and yep, we're here on the field. Darkness has fallen. The lights, for the most part, have been turned out, but they did not get turned out on the third-ranked, now 5-0 Ohio State Buckeyes after a big win over the formerly 3-1, now 3-2 Iowa Hawkeyes by a final score of 35-7. And if you watched the quick hit pregame preview, you know I just didn't have any faith in my Buckeyes that they would be able to get the job done today in the way they did. Now, I said 31-13 was going to be the final score. I technically gave Iowa 6 more points credit and Ohio State 4 less points, but that essentially was only an 18-point win. The Buckeyes were favored anywhere between 17 and 18 points. I said they'd win by 18. They ended up winning by 28. So it was not an overly dominant performance by the Buckeyes in the sense of completely cremating a team by, 275 points. But a win is a win is a win, and to win against an Iowa Hawkeye team that came in defensively as stout as they were, I think the Buckeyes made a statement here this afternoon. So let's break it down. A few stats for those of you that were living under a rock or maybe watching that Alabama-Vanderbilt game where Vanderbilt, yes, the Commodores pulled off the upset over the number 1 ranked team in the country today. I know I'm completely going off track, but I cannot believe that. Vanderbilt shocks the college football world with a final score, I believe, of 40-28. That was the last I saw, and there was about 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. But I know that Vanderbilt just beat Alabama. So maybe you were kind of watching that game rather than watching this Buckeye game today. But if you're a true scarlet and gray Buckeye fan, not a true other color that rhymes with the word true, fan of OSU, you were probably watching you were watching this game. But if you're not a true fan, you probably were watching Alabama get beat, which I don't blame you for doing. I can't wait to go watch the highlights. But once again, let's break it down here. Ohio State 412 total yards to Iowa's 226 on the ground. Once again, Ohio State has just been a team for these first 5 games that they are getting it done almost dead even between the run and the pass. 209 yards through the air total, 203 on the ground against an Iowa defense that came into today's game allowing a second best in the nation 61 rushing yards per game and had not allowed a rushing touchdown until today. So obviously the Buckeyes smashing the fact that Iowa was only allowing 61 rushing yards a game. They allowed 203, and this was obviously the first game all season that any team had run for triple digits against the Hawkeyes and scored a rushing touchdown. And in fact, the Buckeyes only one rushing touchdown, and that was Will Howard on a 4-yarder in the first half. I believe that was the first half. If that was not the first half, shoot me down where I'm at. I should probably know that, but this is, you know what? Hold on. We're gonna watch this, or we're gonna watch this. Yeah, we're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch you look like an idiot, Andy, and not know exactly when Will Howard scored his rushing touchdown, which was not in the first half. That was Emeka's 14-yard touchdown catch. 1 of 3 today for Emeka, his first ever 3-touchdown game. But Will Howard with the only rushing touchdown, which came with 8 minutes to play in the third quarter. So Will, though, gets the first rushing touchdown of the season against the Hawkeyes, and once again, collectively 203 on the ground. Quinshawn, 13 carries, 78 yards, led the Buckeyes in both of those categories. Travion with 11 carries for 61 yards. Will ended up with 10 carries for 28 yards. And Jeremiah Smith, once again, tucks another rush under his belt. He had a 14-yarder today. Obviously didn't go for a touchdown like his 19-yarder last weekend against the Spartans did, but they still run a nice little wide receiver sweep and he busted off for 14 yards. Excuse me. Through the air, Will Howard was 21 of 25, completed 84% of his passes, 209 yards, 4 touchdowns. Once again, 3 of which went to Emeka. The other touchdown went to, take a guess who, your boy, the guy I just mentioned, had a 14-yard rush in the game, Jeremiah Smith. That was early third quarter. That was their first touchdown in the second half, and it was a 4-yard fade to Jeremiah. He's fighting off the defender. Get away from me. Get away. Get off. One-hander. Again, another one-handed touchdown catch for the phenomenal True Frosh. I mean, dude's he's on another level. He's on another level. Receiving-wise, Will did have an interception. Threw that in the second half. It was not a good-looking pass, but, it's going to happen. It's going to happen from time to time. Will Howard is human, even though he had a fairly unhuman-like performance today. Once again, 84% of his passes complete for 209 yards, 4 touchdowns, and that 1 interception. But Jeremiah, 4 catches, 89 yards, the 1 touchdown. Mech, the 3-touchdown game, first ever in his career. 9 catches for 71 yards, so he led the team with 9 catches, was second, though, in the yardage category. Brandon Ennis and Bryson Rogers had to play for the questionable Carnell Tate, to which Ryan Day said after the game, just one of those things, kind of a tweak in practice, and they felt like they would be able to hold Carnell out. If they really needed him, they were going to bring him in, but otherwise they felt comfortable with leaving him out. And Brandon Ennis came in 3 catches for 29 yards, so that was nice to see. And Bryson Rogers, he had 1 catch for 8 yards, but it was in a window. I mean, to tell you, Will Howard put this thing, boom, right on the money. And, I mean, he threw it in between 2 Iowa defenders that when he threw it, I'm like, holy cow, what are you doing? And instead, Bryson Rogers made a phenomenal catch. Defensively today, man, this was a game where I was a little nervous about Ohio State being able to get it done. Not necessarily get it done defensively, but just, how was their defense going to look playing in the trenches against an Iowa offense that, a guy like Caleb Johnson came into this game with 585 rushing yards. I mean, he was getting on it through the first 4 games of the season. Led the Hawkeyes today with 15 carries for 86 yards, and he did have a 28-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter for Iowa's only score, but that was against Ohio State's second team. And, would he have done that against Ohio State's first team? I don't know. It's tough to say. But Caleb Johnson still had a decent enough game. Luke Lachey, the progeny of former All-American here at Ohio State, former All-American offensive lineman Jim Lachey, and a Grandview Heights High School graduate, Luke, 5 catches, 39 yards. Led the Hawkeyes in that category. But getting back to the defense and the way that the defense played this game, this just blows my mind. First of all, Iowa fumbled the ball 4 times. 2 of those were on strip sacks, 2 of which Ohio State recovered. And the Buckeyes also had an interception off of Cade McNamara. Davison Igbinosun, what do I want to say? Just the very confident junior cornerback came up with it was a bad throw. Cade McNamara and his receiver got mixed up. McNamara went to the inside, thought the receiver was going there. The receiver went to the outside on a hook. Igbinosun was right there. Boom. 45-yard return up the right sideline for Igbinosun. But so 3 turnovers for the Buckeyes, 2 for against the Buckeyes in that Will Howard interception, and Jeremiah Smith did have a fumble. His first catch of the game. It was good for 23 yards, but he got caught from behind, coughed it up. Hawkeyes recovered. Once again, that is going to happen for a true freshman. But then he came back with that touchdown catch to begin the second half. Kind of made some retribution for himself. But all total said and done, this Buckeye defense, 4 sacks today, 9 tackles for loss, the 3 turnovers, And really, this was a dominant second half performance by the Buckeyes. In fact, at the end of the first half, Iowa actually held the time of possession over Ohio State. It was by a minute. They had the ball for like a little over 15 minutes. Ohio State had the ball for a little over 14 minutes at the end of the first half. Second half, though, Ohio State had the ball for 20 minutes. 20 minutes of the second half belonged to Ohio State. They only allowed the ball in Iowa's hands for 10 minutes. So you want to talk about eating up the clock and scoring 4 touchdowns to Iowa's 1 in the second half. This game really was won in the second half because at the end of the first half, it was only 7-0 Ohio State, only 7-0. But at that point, Ohio State had run for 110 yards. You could kind of tell that they were probably going to work out those kinks in the second half, and that indeed they did for a huge final score once again of 35-7. And I got to give a shout out to some of the defensive players in this performance. If I didn't, I'm always talking about the offense. Sometimes I overlook the defense, so I'm sorry to some of you defensive specialists, some of you defensive guy lovers, you know, that, you know what I mean. Sonny Styles, seven tackles for Sonny, 2 for loss for the junior from Pickerington Central High School. Cody Simon had 6 tackles today and a pass breakup. Ty Hamilton, 5 tackles. He had 1 of the strip sacks. The fumble, it was actually recovered by Kenyatta Jackson. Igbinosin, 3 tackles and the pick. Caleb Downs had a solid game today, too. He only had 3 tackles, but 2 of them were for loss, and he had a quarterback hit. Jack Sawyer, another Pickerington guy, Pickerington North High School, 3 tackles, and 1.5 of them were for loss, including him having a strip sack as well. So there's some of your defensive stalwarts in today's impressive 35-7 win. So there you have it, folks. I'm done. I'm getting out of here. I've talked long enough. I've rambled. I've made myself sound stupid, and now I'm making myself sound even stupider. So I'm going to cut this off and say, everybody have a great rest of the night. I appreciate you watching. And yes, now it begins. Oregon week, not officially upon us, but come here in a few hours when it hits Sunday. It's officially upon us. So be sure to check out our Wednesday at the Woody. Me and my boy Drew Sample will be coming with some player interviews, as well as Coach Ryan Day, who usually comes out for a Wednesday lightning session. We're going to be doing that Wednesday at the Woody. So until then, everybody take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.